Stop scrolling. Have you ever faced challenges that seemed impossible to overcome? What if I told you there's a biblical story that mirrors those struggles and can reignite your faith? Today, I present to you the incredible story of Elijah. Faith in a time of drought. Get ready, because you don't want to miss this. Our story begins long ago in the land of Israel, during a time of rebellion and spiritual decline. Ahab, the king of Israel, had turned away from God and led the nation into Baal worship. Guided by his wife Jezebel, King Ahab built idols and encouraged the people of Israel to forsake the one true God. The land was filled with injustice and idolatry, and God's heart ached for his people to return to him. Enter Elijah, the prophet of the Lord. Elijah was a man of great faith and conviction, living in a time when proclaiming God's truth could cost you your life. God speaks to Elijah and gives him an extraordinary task: to warn King Ahab and the people of Israel of the consequences of their actions. Elijah boldly approaches the king and declares, "As the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years, except at my word." Imagine the courage it took for Elijah to deliver such a message. The entire nation was heavily reliant on rain for their crops and survival. By declaring the drought, Elijah was essentially predicting economic collapse. But Elijah's trust in God's instruction was unshakable. He knew that this drought was necessary to turn the hearts of the people back to the Lord. After delivering the message, Elijah is instructed by God to flee to the Kerith ravine, east of the Jordan River. There, God provides for him in miraculous ways. Every morning and evening, ravens bring Elijah bread and meat, and he drinks from the brook. Pause for a moment and think about this. God used birds to deliver food to Elijah. Isn't that incredible? Even in times of scarcity, God demonstrated his ability to provide in the most unexpected ways. But as the drought continues, the brook eventually dries up. What would you do in Elijah's shoes? How would you feel? God, however, does not abandon his servant. He directs Elijah to go to Zarephath, a small town outside of Israel, where a widow has been commanded to provide for him. This widow is at the end of her rope. She has only a handful of flour and a little oil, barely enough for her and her son to survive. Yet Elijah boldly asks her to make him a small loaf of bread first, promising that God will ensure her jar of flour and jug of oil will not run dry until the rain returns. And just as God promised, the flour and oil sustain not only the widow and her son, but also Elijah throughout the drought. God's provision is boundless, but it requires obedience and trust. How often do we hold back from trusting God fully, especially when resources seem scarce? This part of the story reminds us that faith often demands action, even when the outcome is uncertain. 3 years pass. The land is parched, crops wither, and animals die. The people of Israel grow desperate, and their devotion to Baal shows no signs of breaking. But God has a plan to turn their hearts. He sends Elijah back to Ahab with a bold challenge: to gather 450 prophets of Baal and summon all of Israel to Mount Carmel for a showdown of faith. The scene is set. 2 altars are prepared, one for Baal and one for the Lord. The challenge? To call down fire from heaven to consume the offering. Baal's prophets begin their rituals, dancing and shouting from morning till noon. But there is no response. Elijah taunts them, saying, "Shout louder. Perhaps he is deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened." The prophets' frantic cries continue until evening, but Baal remains silent. Their God is powerless. Then, it's Elijah's turn. He repairs the altar of the Lord, placing 12 stones to symbolize the 12 tribes of Israel. He digs a trench around the altar, places the wood and the bull for the offering, and, in an act of unmistakable faith, pours water over everything. Not once, not twice, but 3 times, until water fills the trench. As the crowd watches in stunned silence, Elijah prays a simple yet powerful prayer. Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel and that I am your servant. Answer me, Lord, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again. Immediately, fire falls from heaven, consuming the offering, the wood, the stones, and even the water in the trench. The people fall to the ground, crying, "The Lord, He is God! The Lord, He is God!" The power of God is undeniable, and the hearts of the people begin to turn back to Him. But the story doesn't end there. Elijah commands the people to seize the false prophets of Baal, and they are put to death. And soon after, Elijah prays fervently for rain. As he kneels on Mount Carmel, he sends his servant to look toward the sea for any sign of a storm. 6 times the servant returns with no news, but on the 7th look, he spots a small cloud, no bigger than a man's hand, rising from the sea. Elijah sends word to Ahab to prepare his chariot, for a mighty rainstorm is coming. And just as Elijah predicted, the skies grow black with clouds, the wind rises, and heavy rain pours down, ending the drought. God's faithfulness is evident once again. So what can we learn from Elijah's story? First, this story reminds us of the importance of standing firm in our faith, even when facing opposition or impossible odds. Elijah's unwavering trust in God serves as a powerful example for all of us. Second, it teaches us about God's provision, whether through ravens, a widow's meager resources, or fire from heaven. God is able to meet our needs in extraordinary ways. Lastly, it shows us that God's ultimate desire is for our hearts to turn back to Him. Even during times of hardship, His plans are always for our good and His glory. When life throws challenges your way, remember Elijah. Remember his courage, his obedience, and his unshakable faith. Just as God was with Elijah, He is with you too. So the next time you face a drought, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, trust that God will provide, guide, and deliver you. Thank you for watching this episode of Bible. Don't forget to like, share, and follow for more inspiring stories of faith. Let's spread the word and remind the world of the incredible power of God. Until next time, may your faith be strong, and may you always trust in the Lord's provision.